So welcome everyone to my another new video. So in this video I will show you I will tell you about REST API. Okay, so this is a very new topic. I am going to explain and upload the video in my YouTube channel very soon. So before going to REST API, I will tell you what is REST API, and today we will see how we can implement REST API in our Django project. And also I will show you how we can test our API endpoints. Okay, because we don't have any front-end websites or front-end technologies in case of React, Angular. If we know those also front-end technologies, in that case we can test our API endpoints because Django is a backend framework. Okay, so basically we need, so as I have uploaded many videos and you have seen that I am using HTML, CSS and JavaScript to prepare the front end, and also I've used Ajax for asynchronous communication. So front end, like though I am a backend developer, so basically uh, creating front end like by using HTML, CSS and JavaScript. But those who are specialized in front-end technologies, like someone knows React.js, someone knows Angular, these are the famous front-end technologies. So how they will access, like they have to connect the backend, they have to store the data into database, what the client is filling or providing the data, that data to be stored in the database. So how those data to be stored in the database? So for this reason, so the front end will connect to our backend with the help of, like, front end will use our API endpoints, REST API endpoints that we have implemented in Django backend, and with the help of that, the client's data or the user's data will be stored into the database. This is the need for API endpoints. Now, how we will integrate our API in Django project? Now, first of all, the full form of API is Application Program Interface. API is needed. So, what is API? So, API is a medium of communication between two different applications. Okay, what I have told, how the front end will access our database with the help of API endpoints, backend API endpoints. So, for integrating API, we need to use Django REST framework. So you will have to go to the terminal. Though I have started the development server. So you have to go to the terminal only, and inside, like if you are using virtual environment, you have to install with the help of pip module. You have to install pip install Django REST framework. This is that that Django API, or the REST API is basically, Django REST framework is basically used for building, like integrating API in Django project only. There is also another type of API, not API, like another way of creating REST API is, that is fast API we used in other projects. But for Django, we use Django REST framework. And another thing we need to install, that is CORS headers. CORS is basically a security features that controls, like which domains, like which domains can access our API endpoints. There may be some fraudulent API, like domains also, that would try to access our API endpoints. So this will be handled by core shaders. So first of all, for integrating the API in our data in our Django project, we need to create, we need to go to our Django REST framework. Like we need to install Django REST framework. Like see, like from the Django REST framework, we are importing everything. Okay. Now we have to do some settings inside the setting configure. Like there are some settings in the settings.py. What is there? First of all, in the app section, so install apps. So whatever custom apps you have built it, like employee is my custom app, I have mentioned it, configured it. and you have to mention the REST framework also, or else like when the Django server starts, this REST framework does not load and you cannot use the REST framework features. Second is CORD headers. It is CORD headers. It is basically a security features. I have explained you why it should be loaded. Then we have something called CORD's allowed origins. Okay, this is basically this two like these two endpoints, or you can say like IP addresses. IP addresses can access our API endpoints. Nothing, no one else. Okay. Third is REST framework default parser classes. We have to configure this default parser classes. Okay. See, REST framework is basically a dictionary. Inside that we have a list object that is default parser classes, and inside that list object, different parser classes are listed. See, JSON parser, this is multi-part parser, and this is form parser. This configuration, like 2 to 3 configurations we need for integrating API in our Django project. Okay, and now static configuration, media configuration is there already. Now, before like it does not, like we cannot write the API code inside the views.py only. I don't have views.py because I haven't used any front end like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I haven't used in this program. So that's why you will see the way in the previous videos I have showed you with the help of localhost colon 8000, localhost colon 8000. So I haven't built anything. So the localhost colon 8000 will not show anything. See, page not found. So I haven't built any page though. There is no HTML file. I have not configured the HTML part also, template part also. There is no template. So that's why it is showing. I have just done the API part, and I will show you how to test API so that the front-end technologies can use our API endpoints. Now, before integrating API, so we need something called API views. So there we will create our backend logic for the APIs only. Okay. So I will explain you later on. First of all, before API views, we need something called Serializer. So you will see I have created a file called Serializer. Before Serializer, we have to create a model. Like though we are using database, by default I'm using DB only. Okay. So later I will go for PostgreSQL. So where is my this one? So if you like, I have created my model, and next is I have to create the serializer. Serializer is very much needed when I will integrate API in our Django project. Without serializer, I cannot use API. So what is serializer? Serializer is basically just like Serializer is basically imported from a Django REST framework. See, imported from a Django REST framework. It is basically just similar to a Django form, but it is used for APIs. What I have told, it is mainly performed 3 tasks. What task? First one is it converts incoming JSON data. Okay, so though I am using API, so API sends the data and receives the data in the form of JSON response only, and here we can't use JSON response JSON response. Here we will use only response, that is also sends and receives the data in the form of JSON format only. Okay, so like serializer is basically like performs 3 tasks. So first of all, when the data is coming from the browser or from the client, so it converts the incoming JSON data into Python object so that Django can validate and save the data to the database. This is called deserialization. When the data is coming, suppose with the help of URL, there is URL also, I am showing you URL also. This is the API URL. When the data is coming, it is like the request URL, incoming URL matches the pattern, any one of the pattern URL pattern, and the corresponding API view will be executed. Okay, now okay, so first of all it have to convert, like though it is working in a Python project, so it have to convert the JSON data into Python object. That is called deserialization. Next, what serialization does, it provides the developer the opportunity for inbuilt validation as well as for custom validation using methods such as validate underscore field name for field level validation. I will show you. So why I'm using serializer, it is basically similar to Django form. What Django form does, it is helps us to generate form fields easily, and if we use model form, it will automatically the form fields will be generated. So it does the same task. But for APIs, what it will do, it will, like, we can, for the name field, like we have to import model serializer from the serializers. Okay, what model serializer that it helps us for the inbuilt validation. See, name, we are doing the inbuilt validation. If it is blank, then employee cannot be blank. Okay, we are customizing the statement like error messages, means if the user does not provide the name, then it will provide this error. We are customizing. Okay, this is called inbuilt validation. And we have something called custom validation. Okay, this is called the custom validation. What we are providing the value, what is the name of the value of, like, the name what the user will provide or the employee will provide. Okay, then if the name is lesser than, the characters of the name is lesser than 3, then it will raise a validation error, cannot be less than 3. Okay, and then return value, same for the salary also. If the salary is lesser than 10,000, cannot be, the salary cannot be lesser than 10,000 for a particular employee. This is called field level validation. Okay, and these are called inbuilt validations. We don't need to do anything, just blank. If the message box or message field is, sorry, name field is blank, then it will provide this error automatically. Okay, but if, like, we can customize also, this is the customize for name. If that is, like, we are doing the validation, you can also integrate regex like regular expressions also here. I will show you later on. So if the length of the name is lesser than 3, then it will also provide an error, cannot be less than 3. Okay, so serializer, so how the serializer will be executed inside API view, inside each API function based view. I will use for post data, or for put or pass data. Put or pass data, there are 4 types of HTTP methods. I will explain you. Okay, so post data, it will again use the is valid. Okay, then when we call this is valid function, automatically the validation functions are invoked. Serializer validation functions are automatically invoked. Okay, so there are 4 types of HTTP methods: post, get, put, patch. Okay, post is basically for when the you like when the basically when the user or client send the data to the Django server, need to be stored into the database. Like, that is handled by the post method. So this function based view will only execute if the request comes in the form of post. Delete, oh, also delete is there. Delete is basically used for deleting a record or instance. Put or patch, put is basically for updating all the fields, okay, of the fields of a particular employee. And patch is basically used for partial implementation, means for updating a particular attribute, a particular column, not column, particular field of the employee. Okay, and we have something called gate. Gate is basically used for sending the data, how many employees are there. Okay, and these are all are gate, because I am fetching the data. The client is like the browser is fetching the data from the database, basically not sending the data. See, list of employees, how many employees are there in the database, so it will fetch with the help of gate method only. And department, with the help of department we are searching, with the help of, like, how many salary above, means like the when the user will provide the salary, so what are the how many employees are there above this salary, and this is for lesser salary. Okay, so I'm using the URLs part also. Okay, so API add. Okay, so basically when the request will come, if the matches any of the, that's like the way we are doing the Django project, in the same way we are doing the API part also. If the your like request, like incoming URL matches with any of the URL patterns, then it will execute the corresponding function based view. Same. Now So for post API view, this is basically used for we are creating an instance of a serializer for the post request. Okay, we are creating an instance of the serializer. So there we need to pass the request data, whatever the client has sent it, and we have to use the context. This request means this request is basically refers to the API endpoints with the HTTP method along with it. Okay, and now this API view for like API view is basically used for converting a normal Django function based view into an API view. Without API view, we cannot implement API, okay, in our Django project. So API, this API is basically a decorator. We are importing it from the REST framework decorators only. This takes a list as a parameter, and inside the parameter, we will provide the allowed HTTP method. Like for post request, if any post request comes, then this function based view should be executed. Okay. Okay, so and we have in the URLs add part, so API add, so this will execute, then the corresponding function based view add employee will be executed. Okay, now I will show you something called query params. Why query params is needed? Now if I go for search department, so for searching the department, again one thing is I am using the ORM queries also. You will see what is the ORM queries for. If I go for list, what is the ORM queries for getting all the records from the database? See, we need to provide the EMP objects and then all. Okay, I have explained you ORM multiple times. ORM stands for object relational mapping. It is basically used for interacting with the database by using Python classes and objects without writing the raw SQL query. We cannot directly write that select star from EMP table. We cannot write it. We need to use ORM. This will convert fetch the data during the fetching the data from the database. This will convert this into raw SQL query. Okay, emp.objects.all. Okay, so you have to keep in mind all the ORM queries also along with join. There is something called annotate, aggregate, just research about it. Now, so if I go for search department, okay, like I will show you by testing. Okay, now you will see search department. What, like for searching based on the department, the user need to give the department name. Now how will you test that? Okay, so basically first of all we need to use query params, request.queryparams.get department. What it will do, it will take the value from the URL. This is a new thing, it will take the value from the URL. So if I go for URL, suppose I am giving it for testing, this basically the URL for testing for executing the search department function based view. I'm providing it. See, I'm providing it. And then if we need to give a ternary operator, okay, because we need to give the value like for like employees of which department I need to show, like I want to see. So for this regard, department equals to HR. For HR department, I want to see how many employees are listed in HR department. For this reason, I will give this question mark and the department equals to HR. Okay, with the help of Postman, I will test it. Okay, so in that case, that HR will be stored in the department reference variable. Query params is basically used for fetching values from the URL directly. And then in the EMPs, I will store, this is basically a query set. Filter will return a query set, which is basically a ORM query. Employees.objects.filter. Filter is basically used for fetching the data from the database that matches those records that matches the given condition. If the department equals to HR, those like those employees who works in a HR department will be fetched, and then we will pass it to the serializer. Then serializer instance is basically used for converting the Python object into JSON data so that we can send it as a response. See, I'm sending as a response, and you will see the serializer data. You will see how many employees are there in department. That also will be shown. Like the way the salary greater than less than also I have used. If I show you the ORM query, see salary underscore underscore GT means greater than sal. Whatever salary I will provide, greater than like employees with greater than this salary will be fetched, and employees with lower than this salary will be fetched. Okay, so you need to sure about the ORM queries. Now I will test you, like I will show you by testing all the APIs. First of all, I will show you by providing, like adding a particular data, okay, particular employee. See, four records are there in that table. I will show you by adding another one. So I will open my Postman and I will go for post. Though I have executed one time, so I will again go for post. And there are multiple HTTP methods. You can see whatever HTTP methods you will use, you will select this, and then you will type the URL. This is my current HTTP. Like Django by default runs in port number 8000 and EMP is there along with API add. Okay. Now for the body, like we need to come to the body and name. My name is given. So I will go for suppose uh, Harry. And then I will go for department, suppose HR. Again HR. And then I will go for suppose department, sorry, salary, suppose 22,000. And I will go for send. When I will send it, you will see the data will be shown here and that will be added to the database without front end, because this endpoint will be used by the front end technologies to add the data what client has provided into the database. So if I send it, I will see this is written means and 200 OK success. This status I have printed it 200 OK success. Okay, 200 HTTP 200 OK means our request is successfully executed. Our API is working for the post. Okay, so now if I go to the database and refresh it, you will see another record will be there. See Harry, HR and 22,000 salary. Now I will show you by executing. Delete also will work, put also will work. Okay, put and patch means this is for update also work. I will go for getting the salary more than search by department means suppose I am going to show the department, like the employees who are HR. Okay, HR, I will go for search. Okay, so first of all, I'm writing the URL. These are of type request method of type get HTTP method, and search. I have given a ternary operator. Department I have listed for DEPT, written DEPT equals to HR. I want the employees who works in HR department. So you will see now there is no body, there is params. Params department equals to HR. If I convert it to suppose Python, Python, then department of Python will be there. Employees with Python will be there. Now I will go for HR only and I will send. You will see there are two employees, ARU and Harry of HR department. Okay, I have got it. Okay, now I will go for I have provided you everything, and I will go for list. How many employees are there all total in the office? So I will go for normal get. So in that case, how will I go? List, API list. I will go for API list and I will just send it, because I like this is not a post request. I don't need to give uh, any type of data. Okay, and this is not, I have not used query params because I don't have to fetch any values from the URL. Okay, because I am not searching anything, okay, or getting based on any condition. I'm just want everything, every employee names. Okay, so I have just provided the URL, and if I click send, you will see all the employees listed in the database will be shown, like what I have added will be shown. See all the list of employees, and this is basically the all the employees that are listed with the ID, name, department and salary. ID is basically by default provided, for in models.py we don't need to use ID. We don't implement ID. ID will be by default provided. Okay, so this much till now I have explained how I am I have implemented API in my Django project, and also in the later videos I will show you by executing different function based view how we can perform annotate queries and aggregate queries. Like basically in raw SQL query we call it group by or join, this type of thing. Foreign keys we have used. Okay, I will be using in my upcoming videos how we will implement it in a Django project. Okay, so serializers. So in this video, we have covered how we will integrate an API in a Django project. We have to configure something in settings.py. We have to use serializer, URLs, and API views. Okay, I haven't used any type of normal views.py where our backend normal backend logic will be there. I haven't used any type of front-end technologies like I have used in my previous videos, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I haven't used anything because I don't have any front end. I have just tasted APIs. Okay, this is very much needed and very much important topic in interviews. So wait for my upcoming videos. Till then, bye bye.